Welcome to Grow and Preserve. I'm Carter and I'm so glad to have you in my kitchen with me today. It is fall. The weather has broken. If I squint a certain way, I can start to see some leaves change, but I definitely see apples and pears all over the place right now. And I love that. That means fall is here. Whether we're totally cooperating outside or not, I'm getting ready. So one of the things that you may know about me is that we tend to eat a keto to low carb lifestyle. We have the holidays coming up and I don't want to get through to January and have regrets over what I did or did not do during the holidays. So I've done it a couple of different ways. I have just overindulged and said I'll deal with it in January. Well, that was a big regret. And I have not indulged at all. I've just completely stayed keto during the season. And in January, I also had regrets because I felt like I had missed out. So today we're going to talk about some ways to kind of skirt down that center aisle there so that we don't have any regrets in January. We're able to have a great time, enjoy great food with our friends and families. Now, I'm not going to get apples and pears to be keto because this is a whole lot of carbs in this basket, but I am going to make the end result much lower in carb and so that you can have some. Thank you so much to Your Soul Fitness for sponsoring today's video. I'll tell you more about them in a bit. Okay, I'm going to get set up and I'll meet you right back here. We're all set. Today's first recipe comes from Preserving with Pomona's Pectin. We're going to do from page 185, pear cardamom pie filling. Now the typical pie filling canning recipe is loaded with carbs. Now I can't take away the pears. The pears are pretty necessary in a pear pie filling. However, we can take away some things that are not necessary. So your normal standard pie filling is going to have clear gel in it, which is modified food starch, heavy on the carbs. It's also going to have boatloads of sugar. So we're going to attack both of those today. There is no clear gel in this one. We are using the pectin instead. So we're looking for a loose set on this one because we want it to be gel-like and still pourable, right? But not, we don't want to make pear jam with it today and then try to pour it into a pie. So that's the first step we're going to do. All of these recipes are also low to no sugar. Pomona's Pectin works with low to no sugar, unlike most pectins out there. This one actually only calls for 3/4 of a cup of sugar. Now I'm going to use allulose in mine to take away all those sugar carbs as well, but feel free to use sugar or even honey if you're not specifically watching your carbs, just looking for something a little lower in sugar. All right, so let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is make up the calcium water because I am now out. So when you buy Pomona's Pectin, you will get two packages. One will have the pectin itself in it. The other will have some calcium powder. And this is what helps it set, not the sugar like in most pectins. So let me cut this open. I need 1/2 teaspoon, and we're going to mix that with 1/2 cup of water. Gosh, I don't know where my scissors are, so I have my baby scissors. And this will go into my refrigerator and can stay there indefinitely. So my last jar I did, gosh, I don't know how long it lasted, quite some time. And I have just run out, so we're going to start a new jar today. So 1/2 teaspoon of the calcium powder. Here's my 1/2 cup of water. I'm put this on here and shake it up. And that is the calcium water we need. So remember, when you buy it, if you just buy a single package, let me show you a picture of that. So a single box, you can get it on Amazon, I'll link it. You can also get it at most grocery stores now. A single box makes 2 to 4 recipes. It's 1.1 ounces in this box. And so you'll get both the pectin and the calcium water in here. And you'll get, so that'll be your calcium water. The bigger one will be your pectin. Mine was big because I buy it in bulk. So I need the extra calcium water to go with all that pectin. You'll also get in here a wonderful instruction manual, basically, on how to make your low to no sugar jams, jellies, how to come up with your own recipes for low to no sugar jams and jellies, good ratios you need for the pectin, for the lemon juice, for all that kind of good stuff. This is a fantastic sheet. So be sure to save that if you buy some of the Pomona's pectin. So we've been talking this morning about how I'm going to stay on track with my diet over the holidays. Now, let me talk to you about today's sponsor and show you how I'm going to stay on track with my fitness over the holidays as well. So come with me and let's get a short workout in. Now, I love to walk outside, but as it turns out, I'm quite the fair weather exerciser. So when it's too hot, too cold, too wet, or too humid, I can still get my workout in with the Yasol T3S Plus treadmill from Yasol Fitness. And with the full HD 21.5-inch display and the free screencasting, I can even make cardio fun. It comes ready to connect with your phone so you can stream your workout apps, YouTube, TikTok, or whatever it is that's going to keep you entertained and coming back for more. You don't even need a paid subscription for screen mirroring. That's completely free. But I do like their app for some great outdoor walks and easy control of speed or incline from either the phone or the control panel. The incline feature is one of my favorites. It's a great way to increase the calorie burn in less time. It can also target different muscle groups and reduce impact on my joints compared to walking or running on flat surfaces. It also helps improve cardiovascular fitness and can make your workouts more challenging and varied. The Yasol treadmill is less than a third the price of the Peloton treadmill. But maybe you already have and use the Peloton app. Well, that'll work here just as well. And when you're ready to take your mind completely off the fact that you're working out, it's an easy switch over to YouTube where you can watch all your favorite channels, like this one. Sometimes I just want to tune everything out and blast some great 70s music while I'm working out. With my phone connected to the cable, I can play my Spotify playlist through the 6-watt dual speakers and crank it up as high as I want. Yasol has given me a link and a code that will get you $100 off any of their treadmills, bikes, or rowing machines. I'll put the direct link and the discount code in the description below the video and in the pinned comment. Perfect for small spaces, it folds up and out of the way when I'm not using it. The treadmill is pretty easy to move around. Now keep in mind, I'm 5'3", and I've repositioned it all over this room to find the spot I like best. And because I like to leave the floor space as clear as possible for yoga or stretching later, I love that I can just fold up the treadmill when I'm done to keep it tucked out of the way. So check out Yasol Fitness today and see how they might help you stick to your exercise plan as we head into the holidays and perhaps less than perfect weather. Thanks to Yasol Fitness for sponsoring today's video. All right, the next thing I want to do is mix up my sugar and pectin. So you can use sugar. As I said, you can use honey. I'm going to use allulose to have no net carbs out of that. We need 3/4 of a cup. I'm going to mix that in a bowl with the pectin that we need for this recipe, so that when you put the pectin in, it's mixed in with the sugar or sugar alternative and will not clump, which is very important. You want it distributed throughout, not clumped in a single bite. 1.5 teaspoons of pectin. This is a 1/2 teaspoon, so I need 3 of these. So we'll get this mixed up really well. Okay. I'm going to set this over here by the stove because we won't need this until after we have brought the pear mixture to a boil. Okay, there we go. Next thing we're going to do is slice up our pears and peel them. Now, you can do your peeling in any way you want. I tend to cut them into slices first and then peel each individual slice. But if you're more comfortable peeling the whole pear first, you feel free to do that. I'm going to put them straight in my pot. And honestly, I'm hoping that's a big enough pot, but I'm not certain, so we will see how that goes. All right, I'm going to set aside the lemon juice and the cardamom until I'm ready for it. So we need 3 pounds of pears, and it says ripe but very firm pears. That's exactly where I am. I was actually going to do this this recipe tomorrow, but I didn't want to miss the perfect timing on my pears. I'm a huge pear fan. When I was working, I had one vendor who would send me, it was Harry and David, I think was the name of the company, the pear box. I think it was from Harry and David, every year about this time. Oh my goodness. I looked forward to that pear box, and he stayed my vendor until I retired. Okay. Cut these in about 1/4 to a 1/2 inch slice. These will probably end up broken up, particularly this top part where it gets a little thin, but that's okay. It's at least going to start out as a slice. This recipe makes 2 pints. Now, one of the things I try to use when I am trying to enjoy yummy things, but not feel too terribly guilty about it later, is portion control, which is particularly important on things like this for me. So I am going to do mine in 8-ounce jelly jars, and that will automatically limit how much we have and allow me to feel good about just having it, you know, because it's snowy outside on a Thursday. Okay, I'm going to keep going on this, and we'll come back as soon as I'm done chopping up all these pears. All right, plan on about 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes to peel all of your pears. So they did all fit in my saucepan here, just barely, but they all fit. Now let's get the things in here that we need to add before we start the first boil. So we need 2 teaspoons of calcium water. So I'm just going to shake that. Add 2 teaspoons. We also need a 1/4 cup of lemon juice. I've measured that out already. This is bottled lemon juice. And we need some cardamom. I think that is 1 teaspoon of ground cardamom. I don't know why I have this gigantic bottle of it. I bought it last year, I think, at the Amish store. Huge container. I will never use this much, but we're going to use a teaspoon of it today. It smells good. Okay, this is a 1/2 teaspoon measure. All right, now I'm going to turn the heat on. And we're going to bring this up to a boil. Now, you can see there's very little liquid in here, but the pears will start to produce some liquid. And then, of course, there's the lemon juice and the calcium water on the bottom. So that's what we're looking to bring to a boil. And the pears will start to soften. And certainly as we stir them, they're going to break up, probably more than I would like them to break up, but that is okay. I'll toss them all. So we're going to bring this to a full boil, and then we will reduce it to a low boil and let the pears soften just a bit. And then we'll add the mixture with the, whatever your sweetener is, whether it's sugar or honey or allulose, and the pectin. So this already has the pectin in here. We did that earlier. And put that in, bring it back up to a full boil and let it boil for 1 to 2 minutes. So while this is starting to go, I'm going to go ahead and turn on my canner. I have my clean jars already in here. And we will start to get those heated up. You see how much liquid the pears have produced now? We're now boiling. I'm going to take the temperature down a little bit, keep it at a low boil for 30 to 60 seconds. Make sure my pears are screaming hot. All right, I think it's time to add the sugar and pectin mixture. Bring it back up to a high boil. These pears are holding up pretty well. Okay, so this is my sugar and pectin mixture. Stir it in slowly. Make sure it's all incorporated. Now let's bring that back to a high boil. All right, 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, 1.5 minutes. Remove it from the heat. And let's get our jars ready to go. My jars are nice and hot. This looks beautiful. Pears maintain their color. Looks really gorgeous. I'm going to have just a little bit left for a snack. Let's debubble this. A really good job cleaning up the lids, or the rims here. It could be sticky, and it could have cardamom on it, the ground spice that we put in here. Seems like it did. That ring is dented. Well, it would probably be okay. I'm not willing to risk it. I'm gonna make sure everything seals for me today. Let's get these. Man, this is going crazy. I had an extra jar in here optimistically, but I don't need that. All right, for my elevation, I need the dial gauge here to get up to the dark green area on the steam canner. And we are going to process these for 15 minutes. Let's try this, shall we? Let me get a spoon. This smells delicious. It's gonna be pretty hot. Oh, it smells fantastic. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, I'm thrilled. Very excited with that. I'm gonna put this in a little 4-ounce jar. Stick it in the fridge. It'll set up a little bit in the fridge. And David and I will have that maybe tonight on top of some keto ice cream. So I had mostly liquid, but a few pears in there. Delicious. So I could have canned it in this size, this remainder here, but as I said, it's mostly liquid, so not quite enough pears to have a really satisfying little dessert, but it sure will be great on top of ice cream tonight. My jars have processed for 15 minutes, and then because I'm in the steam canner, that was the end of their 5-minute timer. where I left them with the lid on. So if you're water bath canning, you would turn it off after 15 minutes or whatever your elevation appropriate timing is, and then take the lid off for 5 minutes. With this, you leave the lid on. All right, I'm excited about this one. Apples are up next. Good morning again. It is a couple days later. You know, sometimes life just gets in the way of your plans, but we are back at it today. I'm going to start by getting a bunch of apples cored and peeled and chopped up and into the slow cooker, and we're going to start some apple butter. Now it's going to be in there for, I don't know, 4 to 6 hours or so. I'm pulling for 4, but you know how that goes. We'll see. So I've got these last couple of apples to get in there, and then we will add the cinnamon and sugar and molasses and cloves. I think I'm going to add this time. I have not made apple butter in, oh my gosh, I don't know, maybe 2010, 12, somewhere in there. It's one of my favorite things. But now that allulose has come along, and I have such great results canning with it, there are just so many things that I have not done in ages that I can now do thanks to allulose. I don't want to add too much because I like a good thick apple butter, of course, and don't want to have to cook it down for so long. All right, let's get the allulose in here. This is about 8 pounds, almost 8 pounds. So I'm going to use a couple of cups of allulose. The recipe would call for sugar. I'm not necessarily following a recipe, just kind of a conglomeration of several different things. So this is a 1/2 cup measure. So I'm going to do 4 of these. It would be a lot of sugar if you were doing sugar, right? Okay, 4 of those. Let's get some molasses in. Maybe. Do a decent amount of molasses. So that's really enough to make 2 cups of sugar into brown sugar. And then some cinnamon. Now, I love cinnamon, so I'm going to do, this is a tablespoon. We'll start with a tablespoon. I may add a little bit more as we get to the point where we can do a taste test. And then I'm going to add just a tiny bit of clove powder, which I love. So I've got a 1/4 teaspoon here. Okay, stir that up one more time, and then we can get on to our next project. I want to show you also something that I did with the pear pie filling yesterday, I think it was. Well, I tried to do a little, not a tart, what do we call it, a crumble, a little pear crumble for you. And I did one, and I used about 1/2 of a 1/2 pint, so about a 1/4 pint in there. And I didn't remember I was supposed to be filming it until I was almost done eating it. It was really, really good. So I went and made something else for you yesterday. I took a recipe, and I'll put up some film of it. I took a recipe that I make all the time for some flax muffins, cinnamon flax muffins that are keto, and I just put a little dollop of the pear pie filling on the top of some of those before I put them in the oven. Oh, it turned out fantastic. It was so good. So that is probably going to be one of my favorite ways I'll be using pie filling. So in the batch where I put the pie filling on top, I did 6 of those 12 muffins, and that was about half of an 8-ounce jar. So again, about 4 ounces is what I used. So if I'd had the whole jar, I could have done the entire 12 muffins. It was just, they just turned out great, absolutely great. All right, I'm gonna put this on. All right, I'm gonna get us all reset for the next recipe, and then we should be able to knock that one out pretty quickly. And we'll just be sitting here waiting and hoping for this one to finish up quickly. All right, be right back with you. The next recipe we're gonna do today is apple cranberry pie filling. So that combines 2 of my favorite fall flavors, the apple and the cranberries. So this is gonna be fast and easy. It's going to make 2 pints. Again, I'm gonna do it in half pints. So we'll make 4 half pints. It calls for 8 ounces of fresh cranberries, 8 ounces in weight, half a pound of fresh cranberries. These were fresh sometime last year. Since then, they've been in my freezer, so I'm guessing that my pie filling will be a little pinker than it might be if you do have fresh cranberries, but I just couldn't find any at the grocery store. So it is what it is. It'll be pretty in pink. It also calls for some apple juice and some lemon juice. I'm going to go ahead and put these 2 things in my pot so that my apples don't discolor, because, you know, unlike the apple butter where, you know, it doesn't matter if they discolor because I put a ton of molasses in there. This, I want to stay as pretty as possible. So let me get those in. We need, let's see, half a cup of unsweetened apple juice and a 1/4 cup of lemon juice. So let's get our lemon juice in. And then the type of apple I'm using for this is going to be Granny Smith. You want something firm and crisp that will somewhat hold its shape. It was a little weird to be back working in this particular spot, but I wanted to be near the crock pot for the apple butter. And now this is, it's, you know, already suction cupped on the counter, so may as well do everything here. Okay, there's that. Let's get our apples in. These have been washed well. I only have 3 apples. It's a 1.5 pounds. I could probably do these by hand, but we'll see. We're gonna be lazy and see if this works. Sometimes when the apples get bigger, it doesn't work quite as well for me. I think that was perfect. A little off on the core, which is what I find tends to happen with the larger apples. Goodness gracious, give me that back. Oh, there we go. Now, if you have apples from a source that you trust, feel free to make apple scrap, you know, jelly or vinegar or anything like that. These apples have the wax coating on them that I can't seem to get away from these days in the stores. So I am not going to be using, let's see. So I'm not going to be using the peels for anything. I'm going to cut out just a touch of this core that missed here. They're just not the prettiest looking apples. Ooh, very tart. Wow. Okay, so I have my 1/2 pound of cranberries that should be fresh but are frozen. We'll get those in there, and then I'm going to move you and my pan and everything over to the stove. So like with the pear filling that we did earlier in this video, this part's going to go pretty quickly. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on high. I'm going to put the lid on this as soon as I get everything in. I'm going to do a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, That's 1 teaspoon. Let's try this one. It's a quarter. There's a half. Okay, half teaspoon of cinnamon. Quarter teaspoon each of nutmeg and cloves. Seems like a lot in this little bit, but that's what it says. Okay, nutmeg. And cloves, we'll do a quarter teaspoon of that as well. Love the smell of cloves. Talk about fall. That to me is just perfect. Then we're going to do 2 teaspoons of the calcium water. Remember, I already have the apple juice and the lemon juice in there. Find something I can stir this with. Could maybe have used a larger pot, but you know, here's the thing. My pots go from this to a big monster 5 or 6 quart thing. So I don't know. We'll see. It's in there. We're going to bring it up to a fast boil, and then we're going to reduce it to a simmer. We're going to bring this up to the liquid in this. Remember, we have, I don't know, 3/4 of a cup of liquid down in the bottom. Bring that up to a high boil. All right, in the meantime, we're going to get our pectin and sugar stirred together. Again, I'm using allulose, but feel free to use sugar. Where's my fork? So I have 1.5 teaspoons of the Pomona's pectin in 1 1/4 cups of allulose. So we're just going to stir this up really well. If you don't stir it up really well, it's going to clump when it hits the pie filling here. And you will not get the set that you're looking for in this. Okay. All right, that's good to go. So my small pot was totally unworkable. I couldn't stir. Apples were not going to get heated through. So we've moved into this monster pot, which is much larger than it needs to be, but that's okay. At least everything is going to be able to heat through. So I'm going to bring this up to a hard boil, and then we're going to reduce it to a simmer for 30 to 60 seconds. And then we'll mix in our, the allulose and pectin, and bring it back to hard boil and let it go for 1 to 2 minutes before we put it in jars. So let me get these, they're on, turn them up just a bit. My apples are turning pink. Might do another batch of this without the cranberries and just check the pH as I go along. Okay, I feel like this is boiling now. Yes, it is. Okay, got a hard boil going on. I'm going to turn this down a bit, let it simmer for 30 to 60 seconds. Make sure that the apples are heated all the way through, and then we're going to add our sugar and pectin mixture. This needs to get a move on here. Okay, I'll bring you over here so you can see just how pink these apples are. Pink apple pie filling. I think it's going to be pretty, but it's not necessarily what I want for all of my apple products this season. Okay, let's crank this back up. And I'm going to start adding the allulose mixture. Just a little bit at a time. Get that incorporated. Oh, they're really pink now. Really, really pink. You know what would be good in here too would be raisins instead of the cranberries. Raisins are really low on the pH scale, You definitely want to check it if you're going to go off a written recipe. Go off meaning not follow it exactly. However, you should be in really good shape with raisins. All right, bring this back up to a boil. Let it hard boil for 1 to 2 minutes, and then we'll get it in the jars. Okay, so there's my hard boil. We'll time it for 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, we are just at 2 minutes, so I'm going to turn this off. It is really, really red. Really red. Whoops. Okay, can you see that? Super red. Looks like, what are those pickles? What is it they do with the red hot candies or something? I don't know. Not something I've ever done, but that's kind of what it feels like to me. It's really red. So I think I'm going to do a batch without the cranberries. Let me take these out. Hot jars. Okay. So I wonder if I used fresh cranberries, it wouldn't be quite this red. I got to think it would be at least close, right? Just going to leave a 1/2 inch headspace. I'm going to come back and adjust all of these. It is delicious. Oh my gosh. It's really good. It's just, I didn't expect it to be so red. All right. Let's get these cleaned up and into the canner. All right, let's debubble these. That one dropped a good bit there. So in the book, there's no picture of this. I have to tell you, if I'd seen how red it was going to be, I may have been turned off from doing it, but I'm glad I did it. It tastes fantastic. It's tart and it's sweet. It's just delicious. Okay. Now, it's pretty, but that is pretty darn red for apple pie filling. Yikes, that's hot. So I'm going to bring it up to the zone it needs to be for my elevation, let it go for 15 minutes, turn off the burner after that, let it sit for 5 more minutes with the cover on, and then we'll take them out. And we'll see some pink, or actually at this point they're kind of dark red apple pie filling. Okay, timers have gone off on my red apples. So let's get these out and then I'll show you what I did in the interim. The jars do look pretty. Okay. Now I'm going to get this reset back up because let me show you what I did here. I'm going to do another batch of the apple pie filling without the cranberries this time. So I've made some adjustments here. I went with 2 pounds of apples because I had 1.5 pounds of apples plus half a pound of cranberries before. So to get the same relative volume, I went with 2 pounds of apples. I just peeled and chopped them, hand peeled it. I don't know, it took what, 15 minutes plus 5 minutes. Piece of cake. So I did that. I used all the same spices. I used the same apple juice and lemon juice. Now what I am going to do is, when this has come up to a boil and I have all the liquid and everything is soft and ready to go, I am going to do a pH test on this because I'm not using those cranberries. So I want to make sure that this again is below 4.6. I like to have mine significantly below 4.6 just because I'm not doing this in a controlled lab setting with, you know, really expensive equipment kind of things. And I want to talk to you about the pH strips. We talk about those kind of all the time. I use them every time I go off script, so I'm going to be using them today. I had somebody on the last video point out that in the lab where she works, they have expiration dates on their pH strips, and they have to make sure that everything is within the expiration date if they're going to do some type of qualified testing. So I looked at mine, and in teeny tiny little writing, kind of behind a double plastic layer, there was indeed an expiration date. So I ordered a new batch, and my new expiration date is like 2027, 2028, something like that. So we're going to break out the new pH test strips and test this, but I'm going to turn this into some more pie filling because here's why. This is beautiful, it's lovely. However, I'm going to want to do things like a keto bread pudding with it. I use some keto bread that I make and just do a bread pudding, super easy. And I would love to have this kind of baked into the top of it. The muffins that I showed you, I'm not sure I want a big red blob on top of my muffins. Also with a tart or something like that. Sometimes you just want the plain apple, and I know my daughter would prefer the plain apple over the thing that doesn't really look like an apple anymore. Plus she's not a huge fan of cranberries. So I'm going to get this done, and we'll just add one more thing. I had 3 apples left, and I had one of those little ones that was still okay, and that brought me to 2 pounds. So we'll see. I'll show you this when we're done. Okay, so let's look at my pH test strips. These are the old ones that I've had for years. You can see there's no expiration date that I saw. Now it is hidden on the inside. However, they've gotten serious about it now. So if you just ordered some, you should have an expiration date right there on the front. It should also be on the inside, but in very small print. Yeah. You can see how there is a double plastic layer here. It's right there in teeny tiny little print. So I'm going to get these open. They come all wrapped up. Looks like, what are those little chocolate coin things? That's what it looks like. Come wrapped in gold, you know. Used to love those things. My dad used to love those things. Okay. Okay, so now back together. So we will test this when it comes up. Can you see? When it comes up to a boil, and I have enough liquid down here to test. Still not quite a hard boil. Let's take it up in temperature a bit. This one's getting aggressive. All of my red jars sealed, so that's fantastic. Okay, this is at a hard boil here. So I'm going to take it down to a simmer, 30 to 60 seconds. We're going to do this exactly the same way we did that one. So check my watch. We'll go ahead and see where we are on pH. Okay, a little bit of liquid, So that is cinnamon and cardamom and nutmeg and everything floating around in there. Okay, let me get where you can see this. Yeah. It's not a 3.5, there's a 3.0. I think we're at 3.0. So I'm totally good with that. Don't need to worry about it. All right, let's start getting the pectin in. So this is the 1 1/4 cups of allulose mixed with 1 1/2 teaspoons of pectin, bonus pectin. Get this all stirred in, and then we'll bring it up to a hard boil for another 1 to 2 minutes before we jar it up. So I know we've talked about allulose before. If you do use allulose, know that it does not have the same properties as sugar that will help keep the color and the texture. So you will not want to make any more than you're going to use in probably 18 months or so. It's generally my target. The product will it'll still taste fine. It just won't necessarily look as beautiful as it does at the beginning. I'll put the rest of this in here. Okay, bring this up, get a hard boil for 1 to 2 minutes. I'm going to do a little smidge more of this in a test now that I have the allulose in there. Okay, yeah, we're still at 3. All right, that is good to go then. So you can see how this would be prettier in like a bread pudding, or maybe on top of a keto Dutch baby kind of thing, than the red apples, right? So this is going to be great. If I had any raisins in the house, I would have been sorely tempted to add some raisins. However, that's just more carbs. Plus, I don't think my daughter likes raisins either. So, I don't know. This will be just fine. I can always add raisins later. If David wants some, this is good to go. This is ready. Come on, boil a little harder. Okay, this is at a good boil, so 1 to 2 minutes. Right, that is off the heat. Again, we'll go for a 1/2 inch headspace. Try not to make much of a mess as I did last time. All right. This is just a super quick project that you can do anytime. Like I said, it took me, call it 15 or 20 minutes because let's call it 15 minutes because I cleaned up first. Ow. While this was processing, while the red ones were processing, for me to get all those apples chopped and ready and my ingredients put together. the other one up close. So here's this one. I think that's beautiful. All right, let's take a look at the apple butter. The apples are looking terrific. It's been a little over 4 hours now, maybe 4 hours and 20 minutes on this. And I'm going to go ahead and blend it up with a stick blender. And then I imagine it will still need to cook down quite a bit. So I'll take the lid off of the crock pot to do that. We'll see how it looks when we blend it up. I have tested the pH and we are at 3.5. So that is good. I'll do it one more time before I can it because I'm not following a specific recipe. Okay, that's looking pretty smooth there. Definitely thinner than I would like it to be before I can it. So we will give that some time. Get rid of this. We're going to take a little taste test. Okay, I also want to show you my 2 apple pie fillings. So here's a crazy red one. And here is the second one I did. So everything turned out great, everything sealed. I'm really excited to have both of those. Okay, let's taste this. I'm so excited about this. It's very, very hot. Oh my gosh. Oh, that is so darn good. Oh my gosh, that's so good. All right, so all I'm going to do now is just let this thicken up for a bit. I'm just going to let it cook on high, and I'll come check it every 20 minutes or so. But I'm going to leave the lid off this time so it can evaporate a bit. Man, that is fantastic. Okay, all right, see you soon. We are ready. It has been exactly 6 hours since I started this. And you can see, I hope you can see from there how much it's reduced. Maybe 2.5, 3 inches. And the consistency looks great. I just tested the pH. We are at 3.5, so that is perfect and good to go. I have my jars heating up. I'm going to grab some of those out. I'm going to use a lot of 4-ounce jars just as an effort in self-control. So I don't need to have the 8-ounce jars floating around my fridge so long that I'm looking at it every day going, ooh, I need to eat that, I need to eat that. So we're going to try the 4-ounce jars. I do have a few 8-ounce jars. I'm going to do a 1/4-inch headspace. And these are going to process just for 10 minutes. This is gorgeous. All right, those look beautiful. I'm going to get several more done and then we'll wipe the rims. And that's it for me this week, folks. Thanks so much for spending your time with me today. I want to thank Soul Fitness for sponsoring today's video. Don't forget to go check them out. Remember, the link will be in the description below the video and in the pinned comment. And don't forget to use the discount code for $100 off any of their treadmills, bikes, or rowing machines. And let's just all stay in great shape over this holiday season. So thank you so much, and I'll see you again next time. Have a great week. Bye-bye.